Hi guys, um, this is one-on-one with Kify um, on Grace for Comfort channel. Today I am moved to talk about the art of worship. So let's say worship as a lifestyle. I like to see myself as a worshiper. When I tell people that I'm a worshiper, they think I mean I'm a singer. I sing songs like an artiste. Maybe I am Don Moen or Frank Edwards. That's not what I mean when I say I am a worshiper. In the light of that, I'll be talking about the lifestyle of worship, being a worshiper. All right? So, worship does not mean when we close our eyes to a slow song with a mild instrument or raise our hands to the Lord and just sing along or probably just listen to the song and meditate. Well, this is an art of worship, but worship goes far beyond that. All right? Worship, for me, is the totality of praise, thanksgiving, clapping of hands, jumping for the Lord, making a joyful noise. Is a show of or expression of your gratitude, of your honor, of your reverence, of your devotion, of your appreciation to God. You know, let's see what the Bible says about worship. It will be very clear for us if we look at what Paul said to the people of Israel when he was trying to teach them the art of worship. So Paul said in Romans chapter 12, verse 1, he said, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. Okay, so reasonable service is all that you do. So simply put, worship is the totality of what you do as a living being. You can worship God in every form, in different ways. All right, in the light of this, I'll be telling you in ways in which you can worship God. And this means you're supposed to worship God every day, every hour, in your bed, on the streets, at work, in difficulty, anywhere you find yourself. You can worship the Lord flying the plane. You can worship the Lord moving on the road or wherever you find yourself. All right. But in worship, you have to be real. Worship requires the real you. You express and show yourself to God. Okay? Because God made you and He knows all that you've been through or all that you're going through. So you don't have to come to God pretending. You have to come to God the way you are. When you want to sing song to God as a show of praise or thanksgiving, you want to worship in truth and in spirit, feel free to express yourself. If you are moved by your emotions for His awesomeness, and you want to cry, or your tears have filled your eyes, you feel that much affection for His love, feel free and let your tears flow. It is a sign of worship. All right? You don't worship puffed up. Puffed up. You worship God because He is God. All right? So the deepest form of worshiping God is when you praise God in pain, or when you believe God when there is no proof. Just like having faith and trusting God. You say faith is the substance of things not seen, things that you're hoping for. So when you trust God with no proof, you are worshiping God. All right? When you love God in every circumstance, when you love God and you're homeless or you're jobless, you're barren, you have no peace in your life, you're sick, and you still choose to love God in that circumstance and even sing songs, you are worshiping God. All right? Admiring God's creation is an art of worship. You see, when you go to the sea, you see different kind of fishes. Admiring those fishes is an art of worship. Did you know also that trusting God completely is an art of worship? And also, when you want to invite God in every area of your life, in all that you do, you're being conscious of God. It is an art of worship. When you're driving your car and you're being careful not to hit somebody who is blind or a cripple or something, it's an art of worship. Actually, an act of worship that amazes me the most is when Jesus said to His disciples that when you want to serve, when He was teaching, He said, when you serve your master like an apprentice and you want to serve properly, you act like you're serving Jesus. So as a worker in your company, you work as though you're working for God. So you give your best. You render your best of service. You don't say, because it's not my company, I want to do whatever I want. No, you render services as though you're rendering the service to God. Mastering your skill is an art of worship. If you are a singer and you sing and people are moved to tears and people are standing in ovation, that is an art of worship, because God has given a lot of people different skills, and some people have not even noticed the skill or mastered it. So when you master your skill, it is an art of worship. As a lawyer, when you do pro bonos, that is an art of worship. As a caterer, when you cook wonderful meals, it's an art of worship. As an activist, when you lend your voice to the people who can't speak for themselves, you are speaking not for yourself, but for people. That is an art of worship. As an enthusiast, when you do things joyfully and happily, it is an art of worship. So worship can go on and on and on. As a matter of fact, if I keep talking here, I can talk for like forever. But this morning, I just feel like telling us what I just realized now. That you can worship God in every way of your life, in every circumstance, in anything you do. Even as a parent, loving your kids is an art of worship. Don't forget, some people are looking for children they don't have. God has chosen to give you your own kids. So when you take care of these kids, when you plan to be a good parent, it is an art of worship. You're telling God you deserve the blessing. When you love your spouse, it is an art of worship. Many people are in broken homes, but you have a happy home. So when you love your spouse and you keep your home very well, it is an art of worship. Worship goes on and on and on and on. If you're a potter and you make wonderful clay pots and stuff, you mold stuff that are great, that is an art of worship. So right now that I'm explaining these things in different ways you can worship God, I am sure you're just realizing wherever you are watching me now that you have a lot of ways you can show appreciation to God as an art of worship in whatever thing you do. As a doctor, when you save lives, it is an art of worship. Some doctors are careless, but some of them do this job with the whole of their beings. They try their best to save lives. That is an act of worship. So whatever you do that God has given you the gifting or the blessing or the ability to learn a skill and you master it, it is an act of worship. No wonder God said that for some of us, He's given us the giftings or the ministries of giving. So when you give freely, when you give wholeheartedly and joyfully, it is an act of worship. When you respect your parents, it is an act of worship, because part of worship is devotion. Obedience to the commandments of God is an act of worship. When you obey God's commandments, even if it doesn't feel right, because sometimes obeying the commandments can be tough, but when you choose that I want to please God, I want to keep this commandment, it's an art of worship. When you do whatever comes to mind, whatever you do in your life, do you know that watching your weight is an art of worship? Do you know that taking care of your health is an art of worship? Because God has given you good health, giving you that body of yours. Taking care of yourself is an art of worship. I love those people who go out of their ways to care for trees. People plant trees, trying to retain, or I don't know what they call it, try to make sure there is oxygen and stuff. That is an art of worship. Some of us don't even know the importance or the essence. Some people are there fighting for animals that are going into extinction. That is an act of worship. God made those animals. And I'm sure in His plan, He doesn't plan that any of His creation would go into extinction. But mankind have come and we've just been careless, and some of us have even contributed to things that are destroying God's creation. So taking your time out to look for something as a purpose could be your way of worshiping God. You see, so if you can help the needy, go out of your way to help them. If you can put a smile on somebody's face at any time, don't hesitate to make someone smile. If you can give or make somebody feel good by just your art of compliment, that is an art of worship. Because God needs us, and everybody needs everybody to be able to be blessed. So God needs us to help Him fulfill purposes in people's lives. So when you go out of your way to be a helping hand, to be a confidant, to listen to people who are hopeless and stuff like that, and give them a reason to trust God, you are worshiping God. So right now, as you're watching me, I want you to look into yourself or around you and find a way to worship God today. Not just on Sundays in church or when you sing slow songs. All right? Find a way to do something new in a different manner to tell God thank you, to reverence his holy name, to be grateful for life, to thank him because he's God. Because worship is the totality of mankind. He made us because he wants us to worship him. That was why when he set the people of Israel free from the captivity of the Egyptians, he told Pharaoh to let his people go so that they may go and worship him. So what are you waiting for? Find a way and start worshiping God in a different manner, in a different new way. And you'll be blessed as you do this. So don't forget to help somebody else know or find a better way to worship by sharing this video, commenting, or tell me something you think you can do today that will be an act of worship to the Lord. I'll be happy to read your comments in the section below. God bless you, and may the grace for comfort always remain with you. Shalom and good morning.